Hello, hello, it's your astrologer friend Kimberly here ahead of the Aquarius new moon. I feel like I'm making really good time with this one, coming to you a good few days before the Aquarius full moon. Organized. It's Mars in Virgo season, so yes, I am on top of it. Coming to you organized. Well done, Kimberly. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the chart, my astrology software for the full moon in Aquarius. Aquarius, an air sign. Aquarius, a fixed sign, a fixed air sign. Of all the zodiac signs, Aquarius is the air sign that is fixed. And so, what does Aquarius represent? Broadly speaking, it is about collective groups, networks, and communities. We can include in that idea, in that notion, the idea of online networks and digital communities. Maybe the idea of micro influencers as well, given that we've got Uranus, the ruler of this full moon in a modern sense, here in air sign Gemini as well. But let's just back up a second. Let's just hold up and go through everything step by step. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So we know that it's Leo season because the sun shines in Leo. And when the sun shines in Leo, it is feeling right at home. The sun is in its domicile sign, its home sign when it's in Leo. So the themes of Leo season are strong during this full moon. We've also got the co-presence of Mercury in Leo. Mercury is retrograde right now, and it will remain retrograde until Monday. So with these two planets sharing, co-present in Leo, that's a pretty strong, considerable theme to work with. It's all about Leo during Leo season with the sun in its domicile sign. So that's just to start by saying that it's, that's a strong, strong theme. When we look over at the full moon peaking and illuminating the area of the skies to do with Aquarius, to do with the internet and communities and humanity and science and all the things that are governed by Aquarius, we notice that we've got Pluto co-present in this sign. Pluto has only made it to 2 degrees and it's already in retrograde motion. It is going to take 2 decades for Pluto to make its way all the way through the sign, but it's there for good now. It's not going to retrograde back into Capricorn. That chapter is over. That ship has sailed. But what we've got it now, we've got Pluto for 2 decades in Aquarius, and this Aquarius full moon is allowing us to light up this area of the skies. However, I would say the moon in Aquarius isn't as strong as the sun in Leo, but will give it fair balance because of Pluto's co-presence. So we're working really with these two themes, this axis of the king, which is the sun in its domicile sign of Leo, and the moon in Aquarius, which is, I would say, wild and free, controversial. Aquarius is a zodiac sign that has a kind of quality of, I wouldn't say frankness, that's more of a Sagittarius word, but it's more candid, right? It's more fresh thinking. It's like cutting. Just as you open the windows in Aquarius season, which is end of January, February, you open the window and the air in the northern hemisphere smacks you in the face with this kind of fresh, striking starkness. That is the energy of Aquarius. It kind of really is quite arresting. It's quite fresh, but in a way that bites somewhat. It's like, oh, I didn't see things coming from that direction. I hadn't considered that that was going to be quite so, confronting. So it's fresh thinking and so on. It's all about the broader humanitarian, landscapes and spaces where we experience people, collective peoples. Okay. Now, what's really, really, really amazing, incredible, wonderful, and serendipitous at this full moon we have a kite formation. We have a grand trine in the air signs, and it's popped off there with a kite, an extra little point of interest in fire sign Aries. But let's go through, first of all, the reason that we have this incredible kite. Mars entered Libra or enters Libra. Is it now? I think it's tomorrow. We're still at 29 degrees Virgo right now. Mars will enter Libra and form a trine to Uranus, a trine to Pluto, and an opposition to the pairing of Saturn and Neptune. Okay, so we've got Mars in Libra, Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. I don't know if I said all those correctly before, but that was correct. So the grand air sign, the grand air trine made up of the Gemini, Libra, Aquarius planets. And that formation, that grand air trine plus the kite formation, including Saturn and Neptune, is present during the full moon. So we've got this window, which is basically starting now when you read this or you watch this little video. This really dynamic, wonderful, exciting, serendipitous alignment of planets is coming to, form. And this is so special because these planets, not Mars, but these other planets are slow moving. Saturn moves at a snail's pace. That's the condition of Saturn. He's grandfather time. He's all about slow and steady progress, discipline, consistency, and hard work. In Aries, not very, very happy because Aries really functions as a sign of immediacy. It's the spark that lights things. It's the cardinal fire sign that just wants to, really take action. We've got Neptune there in Aries, and Neptune is a planet that also takes about 14 years to make it through a sign, between 11 and 14 years, I think. And as I said, Pluto will take 2 decades to make its way through this air sign of Aquarius. And Uranus takes 8 years to transit a sign, sometimes 7, but typically 8 years. So by the time Uranus has made it to Cancer, we'll be halfway through Pluto's tour of Aquarius. And that shows you how slow and steady these planets are. It's taking them a really long time to cover the same space that the sun would take 1 month to cover. The sun takes 1 month. It covers the zodiac in a 12-month cycle. That's why we get a birthday every year, because the year is the amount of time that the sun takes to go through the zodiac. But the other ones, it can be 248 years, 144 years, 248 years, etc., etc. They take a long ass time. So the fact that we have these planets in this configuration with Mars aspecting them all during this full moon, it's very exciting. And we've also got Mercury playing into this configuration too, because it's pretty tightly aligned as well. So we've got 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 2 degree, 1 degree, and then 4. Okay, so it's not like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, but it is pretty, pretty there, pretty bam, locked in, right? Thankfully, the sun is halfway through Leo season, just more than halfway through at 16. So again, not plugging directly into these early immediate degrees of the air signs and of Aries. What I also want to say about this is that Mars is not happy in Libra. Mars is really happy in Aries. Saturn's really happy in Libra. So this to me is really unfortunate and unfavorable placements during this full moon, because you've got an opposition of Saturn and Mars, which is already really, really like bloody horrendous. Mars says, go, go, go. Saturn says, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. And Saturn operating in the sign of Libra is, let's say Libra is the sign of cooperation and codependency and collaboration and wanting to tag team with someone, because Libra is all about balance and harmony and relationships and having this collaborative, are you happy? I'm happy, let's work together type energy. Mars in this sign, it's like, are you happy? I'm happy. Arr. Like it's really grinding energy. And sometimes that can result in a person's personality of being somebody that doesn't quite take the action that they would like, maybe would be best and more appropriate. Like they might do a little bit of a dance with somebody, or be less inclined to just do the thing, right? So who's to say whether that's good or bad? I myself, as an Aries with Mars in Scorpio, do not understand it. It's not my way. I'm like, I want it. I'm going for it. You don't want to go for the buffet? I'm over here. I had a Libra boyfriend once, and he would always say, make a plate for me, baby. Like go take a plate to the buffet, when you go to weddings and stuff. He was a Libra. We would go to weddings together, quite a few weddings together, and he'd always like say, take a plate, like make me a plate. And I would never understand, 'cause it's like I'm just all about me. I'm gonna go and make myself a plate. Oh, this is a novelty, making somebody else a plate. Okay. But I did it, of course. And that's one of my learning experiences about cooperating and thinking of others, and not just being so selfish that it's go, go, go Aries time. But as I say, as an Aries with that Mars in Scorpio, I'm pretty immediate and action oriented in that way. And then we've got the Saturn operating in Aries. As I say, Saturn is not happy in Aries. It's almost like, the ram, how a ram, the sheep, the ram, the male sheep, but, like he's like, when you see these videos on YouTube of the ram just like going for it, like I think sometimes there's even a video of a ram who's like locked in with a fence. He's accidentally like butted heads with an inanimate object. I feel like that could be a good representation of Saturn, because the ram is like, come on, like this is a space where we're, pushing forward. Let's get in there. Let's go. And Saturn is a planet that really wants to keep a pace, a consistency. Remember, like the ticking hands of time? Saturn loves the ticking hands of time. And also, Saturn is a planet of stripping back and leanness. And so, like, that's kind of complementary energy for Aries, but Aries is also the sign of war. And so just to kind of get onto the macro themes of what this kite formation speak to me, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but it came to my attention and into my consciousness that during the Neptune Saturn conjunction of 1989, this was a time of famine. So if you remember, Bob Geldof sang Feed the World. I don't know if you remember that, but I do. I was a absolute huge fan of that. That song as a child, Feed the World, let them know it's Christmas time again. So if we go back to the winter of 1989, or, just shy of that time, basically, what I'm pointing out is essentially the stellium of Sun, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn all together in that zodiac sign of Capricorn. And it was a Christmas record. It was focusing on the famine and the, devastation. Ethiopia, am I right? I'm not sure, but I believe I'm right in thinking it was World Aid Africa. And so that Saturn-Neptune conjunction being the collective, Neptune representing the omnipresent themes and where our collective imagination is going. including music, including advertisements on TV, including imagery and artwork and so on. In 1989, we had a music record for world relief, for famine relief, with Feed the World. So Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Capricorn, which is Saturn's sign. Now, obviously, we've got attention being drawn to, again, famine. This time it's in Aries, so maybe we won't be having such a hit record courtesy of Bob Geldof, or maybe they will, but certainly these images permeating our collective consciousness of children, which are very resonant with Aries being such a youthful sign of babies, essentially. So that made me think of that when I was thinking about the conjunction with Saturn. And then, yeah, just bringing it forward a little bit so that we see when Mercury stations direct. It's there still at 4 degrees, 14 minutes, although I'm not sure if that's the exact one. But so yeah, so we're still in a period of time where Mercury is retrograde. So plans aren't completely ready to resume progress right now. We've got that illumination of the Aquarius zodiac sign. So again, humanity, and plugging in with that Pluto there. And, Pluto being the planet of control, manipulation, and I want to say bureaucracy, but I don't think that's quite the right word. Can't remember the word that I'm thinking of, but basically suffocation. And again, there is a lot of polarizing content online in the web space, in the Aquarius realms of digital technology. And Neptune being in there, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misinformation still happening. And so at this full moon, I think all of our thoughts are going to be turned on to the nature of just how difficult and challenging these current times are. And there's no better way of thinking about this than the planets that are so slow moving, locking into this kite configuration of being reflective of the times. So yeah, whether it's now, whether it's over the weekend, just giving some attention to those themes. And then Uranus as well, being media and journalism. So I'm thinking with this tour of Uranus through Gemini for the next 8 years, that it might be about the sense of immediacy and the sense of journalism and fact checking that we're maybe going to get through, again, social media, or listening to people who are outliers or people on the ground. So instead of being established heads of big business and big media, maybe we will be privy to some voices that are outside of those frameworks, because Uranus is all about being an outlier, being unorthodox, being unusual, being a voice that's controversial, going against the grain, doing things differently. So in Gemini, it's going to be touching over the next 8 years anyone who's a Gemini. And Gemini is very much a sign of people who use their journalistic capabilities, their informant capabilities, and even more so if they have Mercury in Gemini too. So yeah, speaking up with a different tone of voice. Then if we zoom forward a little bit, we notice that there is a beautiful positive conjunction. So I've spoken about how rough Mars feels in Libra, not quite being able to act with impunity and cut through, and the same kind of sharpened dagger that it would have in Aries, and how Saturn is also tussling and locked in Aries' domain of go, go, go. But one planet that is really happy, aside from the sun being in Leo, resplendent and attention seeking and attention grabbing, we've got Jupiter there exalted in Cancer. We've got Venus also very happy in Cancer. So the kind of lovely thing about this current astrology, especially on Monday when the moon exactly trines the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And if we add in the north node of karmic destiny and fate, we see that it's there at 18 degrees. So we will then go on to have Venus trine the north node there too at 18 degrees. So what we have got is a nourishment and a sense of abundance around the themes of nurture, food, and like feminine bosom, the feminine bosom. And again, we are seeing attempts of food trying to get through to people who are don't have access to food. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a bit of a bright, there's already been too much damage, let's face it. It's already too little too late, quite frankly. It really is too little too late. Like these things should not be happening. However, like this could be a tiny bright spot, the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And then on a micro level, I'll go into micro level in a second. Anyway, Mercury will be direct from that point, so we can resume progress in so many different areas from that point. But yeah, collectively macro level, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It is frustrations. It's saying, it's pointing out exactly what we're dealing with at the moment. So let's go through sign by sign where the sun and the moon, and then furthermore, like what the other planets are highlighting for you. So we'll start with Aries. So for Aries, Leo season is all about drama, performance. I did some karaoke on the weekend. On Sunday, the sun's day, the moon was in Sagittarius. It was fun. I got to do my favorite songs. So for Aries, it's all about show-stopping moments, or Aries rising, show-stopping moments, lots of theatre, lots of romance, lots of talk about romance, and maybe your sex life too, Aries. With this sun lighting up your corner of children, playtime, fertility, joy, pleasure, hobbies, interests, projects. The very fact that I'm on, video talking too much, is testament to this. And then on the opposite, on the flip side, you've got your friends. Aquarius is your 11th house of humanity, groups, clubs, organizations, participating in the greater good, participating in society, participating for collective agreeableness. You've also got Aries, your ruling planet, Mars, now in your relationship sector. So in the weeks ahead, there's going to be a major focus on integrating your identity into partnership and just really being way more considerate of, what other people in a collaborative sense are there to show you about yourself and about your new responsibilities, Saturn, Neptune in your sign, your new sense of authority, personal identity and authority, and then Uranus in your house of communication, sparking up new ways of broaching questions and showing curiosity, teaching, engaging. I myself, I'm going to be teaching a very basic astrology lesson, and it's going to be cheap. How about that? I'm going to make it very affordable, just because I want to get on to releasing some more important research that I've been doing, which will cost more, but the basic's going to be super cheap. And that's a great thing about Uranus in Gemini. Everyone's going to be doing teaching online, but of course it must be in line with societal values or community. So that's important there too. And then Venus and Jupiter for Aries in your corner of home and family. This is a beautiful time to just remember your roots, appreciate where you're from, your origin story, yada, 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 to really celebrate and soak up your role at home. Okay, that's Aries. Let me just adjust this so that we get the sign by sign in the houses. So we'll just whiz it back to Taurus for fun. Why not? Part of the teachings that you guys are going to be learning. It's how to, adjust the chart so that you've got Taurus as the number one. So for Taurus, the kite formation is plugging in and activating Taurus rising, your 12th house of sacrifices and mysteries and unconscious habits or unconscious practices and, real sacrifices made for the sake of somebody else, which could be a baby, a partner, a boss, somebody that you're working with. But it's about the stuff that people don't see going on in the 12th house of mysteries, secrets, catharsis, and so on. Mars will have moved into your 6th house of work and daily work environments and health and well-being. So there's this frustration or frustrating quality around the work that you do consciously and the work that you do unconsciously, and how this affects the way that you're seen, your public profile, the acknowledgement of your successes. And so when you're thinking about this, so for Taurus, this full moon is all about your reputation, your status, who you are publicly. And that can be the hat that you wear as a mother, the hat that you wear as a husband, a wife, a grandmother, a father, a CEO, an influencer. So with Taurus right now, you're bringing to fruition this notion that you are seen, visible as as somebody with credibility, let's say. And then Uranus is in your money house, so you're finding new ways to make money. And then Leo season brings a lot of emphasis to your roots, your home, and your homestead, your hearth, your ability to sleep at night and rest and gain a semblance in your home environment. So a lot of focus on your property or your family life, but then conversely, who you are as a public figure. So it's like the inner and the outer world, the secret life, and everything that you're doing to keep pedaling, to keep it all going. The sweet spot and perhaps the bright spot of your life right now could be friends. So your ruler, Venus, in your 3rd house of connections, local best friends, neighbors, it's time to trust that you can open up, communicate, soft skills, relate, speak, phone, a friend. That's Taurus. Gemini rising, your full moon theme is communication. Gemini risings. Mercury is your ruler. It's retrograde in Leo. The sun in Leo is lighting up your 3rd house, neighbors, close connections, kindred spirits, siblings, who you are operating among, how you're navigating, how you're connecting and speaking. Uranus is now in your sign. You're feeling excited. You're electric. You're coming up with these bright ideas, but the bright ideas have to have somewhere to go. You pick up the phone. You can't just speak to the air. Maybe you can, Gemini rising. No, they have to have like a back and forth with someone. And so with Leo season lighting up your 3rd house, there's someone around you that you can connect to, reach out to. In fact, there may be multiples or one star, one special person. And with Mercury retrograde, the conversations are not done yet. Okay. And then with the Aquarius full moon, you're lighting up other perspectives, a journey that you are on or have been on, given Saturn and Jupiter have also recently been through this sector. You've learned so much already, Gemini. You are already so wise, you're already so knowing, and you're only going to get more wisdom coming your way, more knowledge, right? So this is all about places that are long distance, foreigners, conversations or connections with people overseas, long distance, etc. So lighting up the journey, lighting up knowledge, specialist knowledge, expertise, and balancing that with how you connect and communicate, because this opposition of Pluto and Mercury could really cut deep. There could be some conversations that really cut right to the bone and challenge you to think differently, challenge you to think, hang on a second, where did I get that idea from? Hang on a second, like, why am I talking like that? Maybe I need to consider another point of view. Maybe I need to take a leap of faith and really open my windows on the world and get some bracing fresh air. And of course, as a Gemini rising, it will depend on how planets in your own chart are scattered. Because if you're a very Leo Gemini rising, or somebody with a lot of emphasis on the third house and the second and the fourth, you might be very self-oriented in terms of your thinking. If you're a Gemini rising with Aquarius stuff going on, you might naturally orient yourself to thinking in line with people that are different. And so Mercury might be teaching you to get a grip on, how people around you express themselves and so on. Teamwork and community could be a real area to work hard at, understanding social cues and society's the bigger picture of society, working hard to develop a network, friendship group, or showing up as a member of your community who understands what's up. Because Saturn is your 8th house ruler, and maybe it's about now, not entrusting friends with like your sort of deeper thoughts, but maybe. Then you've also got the conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in your house of money and purpose. So this could be a really big time for you to expand your awareness, your knowledge, and your ideas about what it is that you do that's valuable, that's appreciated, that's rewarding, that's worthwhile. Are you just doing loads of are you in a job where you're not really being appreciated and rewarded? Or do you need to learn how to really add another bow to your string, build up your assets, build up your assets literally and metaphorically. Okay, Cancer risings, just like me. The Aquarius full moon is coming to fruition in your 8th house of interdependencies, joint resources, and joint ownership, shared space, and taboo topics, private topics that you'd only speak about to somebody who you trust. This is also the house of betrayals and considering where you are betraying other people or where other people might be betraying you. Not to laugh about that, but could be. Anyway, the grand air trine is activating the most private and personal corners of your chart. So Mars is moving into your domestic sector, your sector of home and origins. So you could be feeling a little bit like, wanting to broach the past or broach a parent or parenting issues, or just take action around property and home. Uranus is in your 12th house of closure, mysteries, catharsis, and healing. And so something really intimate could be underway, and sacrifices made, like coming to terms with where you have to step up and be a responsible face, a responsible figure, somebody who's really, presenting to the world a, basically like a figure of responsibility. So like a wife, a responsible member of society, like a human being that is hardworking, but also knows their stuff. But then also somebody who's a figurehead who is making sacrifices and who understands, how to work with others. So private stuff, stuff that you would only really experience if you were quite sensitive to what needs to be done in private, And then Leo season is all about your resources, your money. I personally lost my credit card when Mercury was in its early pre-shadow moments. I'm only going to get it back once Mercury stationed direct, literally. My credit card lost. It's not been stolen, but it maybe it has. Pluto, no, it's not. But this has been my Mercury retrograde experience, like having to borrow money off of my partner, who's an Aquarius, cash, so that, once I retrieve my new debit card, which is overseas in a whole nother country because I need to do my admin. This has been my Mercury retrograde. So it could be about your resources, Cancer rising or Cancers, your resources and where you have to depend on others and what they have to give, your eighth house. The sweet spot is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your first house of self, identity, and personal life. So you could be presenting beautifully. I got my hair done the other day. You could be having a really lovely, fresh chapter of self, but it's deeper than that. It's way deeper than that. Okay, Leo risings. I'll try and whiz through these. Relationships for the Leo risings. Wisdom. Schools of knowledge and how you are taking this journey, Leo rising. You're on a journey, you're on a quest to experience the world and its people and other perspectives, your life philosophy. However, with Mars in your third house of close connections, you need to toe the line, keep it simple, communicate in a way where you are interdependent or interpersonal skills. You need to practice your interpersonal skills because this is your third house of siblings, people like-minded. They might not have the same philosophical views as you, right? Because Mars is the ruler of your ninth house of wisdom and it's in your third house of local ties. So lofty ideas, big picture thinking and like having to broach bureaucratic landscapes, but like in more simple terms. There could be a sibling or a sibling type character you need to get in touch with that doesn't really understand the distance that you've trekked or are trekking. Uranus in your house of friends and connections in broader networks suggests to me that you're making a whole new community of rebels and rabble rousers and mavericks and change makers and people who are different and they might have a different voice. They might be a journalist who's calling things out or a spokesperson or somebody with a mental adaptability and they're being very loquacious and challenging norms in society through the spoken word. Mercury's been retrograde in your sign. It's your birthday season. So there's lots of emphasis on you and what you say among friends. But now it's going to be the time to face up to relationships, one-on-ones, and to really be sensitive to characters who are challenging your understanding of one-to-one relationships and where you feel you fit in with that as well. Now, the moon is the ruler of your 12th house, so every full moon that happens can be quite revelatory for you, Leo. The sun is your ruler. The sun represents you. The moon represents your unconscious. So for Leo risings, full moons are lit. They are revelatory. They are deep and meaningful. They are holding potential to go deeper and diving further. Okay. And especially this one with Venus and Jupiter holding the potential for sweetness and expansion and knowledge and growth and learning in that area of subconscious. Venus being the ruler of your career, your public profile, how you're aspirational, how you're going places, how you're perceived and seen in public, your success planet, essentially, your vocational and career planet, essentially. That career planet now is in the transitionary trenches of your 12th house with Jupiter. It's still good, it's still positive, but you could be putting your uniform away. Imagine that you've gone to collect an award and you had to put on your brass buttons and your suit to collect your award, and you've had it out on the wardrobe, resplendent, because you're a Leo. You like to show off. You like to see that outfit on the wardrobe, hanging up on the wardrobe. Maybe your ball gown. You were collecting an award with a ball gown, and now the ball gown is ready to go back from the dry cleaners into the closet, the crypt. And when things are in the crypt, we're processing, we're dreaming, we're reflecting. And so you might be having this moment of revelatory proportions around relationships and how relationships play into this wistful, you know, awareness or that's deeper, right? It's a lot deeper. It's tender. Yes, it could even be to do with your mum. And we also have, don't forget, the North Node in Pisces, your house of intimacy. It's very like a vibe of sacred bonds, grief, wistfulness. But I do feel like that Mars Saturn in your communication zone urges you to tread carefully in conversations too. Just checking I'm recording. Wouldn't that be annoying? Okay, so that's you, Leo. It could be a time of deep contemplation. Virgo rising. Okay, so Leo season for the Virgo rising is all about that retreat, confinement, recovery. Take yourself offline. Be ready to transition who you are, your reputation, your status, because you've got Uranus for the next 8 years changing up your outer life, who you are externally to the public. You've got Pluto for the next 2 decades changing your work life, your sense of duty, your productivity, your daily undertakings. And that's what's being highlighted by this full moon, Virgo risings, your daily rituals, your daily activities, how you participate in the not the flow of life, but the building blocks of life, the mundane, the monotony. So that can be fun too. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes rituals, discipline, and routine can be sexy, maybe. But in all seriousness, the full moon is lighting up this corner of your zodiac, of your horoscope. Sixth house, wellness. Okay, you've also got Mars in your money sector and Saturn and Neptune in your collaborative sector of mutual joint agreements. So there may be a sense that you're very, very not used to, but you may have been looking to collaborations for some time. We've had a lot of activity in the Aries house of the horoscope and less in the Libra side of the horoscope. So it may have been really necessary for you to partner with people to profit. So I'm thinking of Virgo risings where they do businesses and they're very much locked in with a collaborator. That's it. Like it's collaborative, right? It's like sharing, merging, coming together, being a active participant in a relationship. Now, with Mars in your second house of money, there may be a nudge for you to give something, for you to work, for you to prove yourself, for you to address your values, for you to address your sense of self-worth. And Leo season is helping you purge and process. So again, like I'm thinking of a lot of personal connections that I have. Someone who's just changed their career and they are possibly coming up to this point where they're thinking, shit, how much money have I got in the bank? Let me take stock of my, solo assets, like what I have, because I'm really used to working with others, but like, I better check, like, what's my pay grade? Like, how much can I earn, et cetera, et cetera. So your solo cash flow is being activated. The mutual joint bank account could be a thing. And then this need to relinquish and just really pull back into a gestation, really pull back into a transition, really pull back into a process of catharsis, rest, surrender, do what's necessary. There may be tasks that you don't want to do, but you're doing them. And then we've got Venus and Jupiter in the 11th house of friendships, community, and broader networks. holistic dreams for the masses. So you could have a real feel-good vibe around coming together with your teammates. Lovely. Libra rising, your relationship planet Mars is now in your first house. Saturn and Neptune are in your relationship sector. This full moon is lighting up romance, sex, play, fertility, pleasure, indulgences, your tastes, your desires, how you express yourself creatively, your fashion, your artistic prowess, your passion projects, holidays, vacations, celebrations, any opportunity to feel good. However, with Leo season lighting up community networks and friendships and the greater masses that you're connected to socially, there could be a lot of focus on your friends, your teammates, including professionally, your pals, your network, your extended network, even a bit of back and forth in that area. Uranus is opening your mind to another way of thinking. Uranus is going to blow your mind open. And we had Jupiter in this sector last year. So you're on this awakening, spiritual awakening, and it's really awake, it's really like bringing you this real, hopefully, this real positive, eye-opening journey. And yeah, and I'm just hoping that the Libra risings are really equipped in this moment to show off, show up, shine, let that Aquarius full moon bring you into your splendor, like, show off basically, because this Pluto is really prioritizing your happiness. You could even be obsessed with your kids, your lover, your, people that make you happy with that Pluto, Saturn, Neptune sextile going on. It could be really important that you put your happiness first whilst participating in the community that you're a part of, whilst acknowledging that there are figures and special people in the world. And then the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 10th house of honors, public honors, and, celebratory moments of success. You could be on track with your goals. You could be the investments that you've made could be paying off, because Venus is the ruler of your 8th house of personal investments and collaborative feats. So you could be having a stellar moment in terms of the path that you're on. Lovely. Scorpio risings. Okay, Scorpio risings. This could be a day. This might be a time. Okay, so you've got Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house of daily workplace environment. So you could be taking your job and your health and your well-being seriously. You could be reimagining what it means to have a sense of duty and a practice that allows you to show up day to day. Okay, but the ruler of this sector of busyness and patient work is Mars, now in your 12th house of super sleuthing activities and secrets and hidden agendas and strategizing behind the scenes. So you've got the opportunity to maybe take yourself offline to do some alternative healing, but at the same time, Saturn is there in your 6th house. There's a push-pull. You've also got your contemporary ruler, Pluto, in the 4th house of home, heritage, past, lineage, and there is the Mars-Pluto trine. Your traditional ruler and your modern ruler are conversing in harmony. We don't like to use the word harmony when it's Pluto and Mars, but they are conspiring together. Okay, they're conspiring in private spaces so that you might be having some progress around contextualizing the secret side of life, the past. Okay. Then you've got Uranus in your house of commitments. So just might be a lot of like deep topics coming up for the water signs, like the water risings and the water suns might be touching on some really exciting buttons that are really personal and private. You know what I mean? So then you've got Sun, Mercury at the top of your chart. This is all about success, Golden Girl. This is all about flying your flag and being super duper successful. Maybe you're getting a promotion. Maybe you're being seen. Maybe somebody's interviewing you. Maybe you're taking a microphone and giving a speech. Maybe you are seen as a success, a reliable pair of hands. Maybe you are thriving in some area of life that allows you to be visible and prominent. Take the stage, Scorpio, Scorpio risings. You've also got Venus and Jupiter in your ninth house of wisdom and specialisms and long distance travel and knowledge and expertise and growth and personal development. So you are also on a wondrous journey to explore your life philosophy, your faith, your truth, what it is you know to be true. So that's exciting. And really, really the sweet spot is that you could be really coming into a beautiful moment with a partner because Venus is the ruler of your relationships. And Venus is right there with Jupiter. Lucky, lucky Jupiter. It doesn't always mean luck, but it could be fortuitous or expansive. Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings. One of my favorite signs is a Sagittarius moon and Aries over here. Sag, it's Leo season. This is a time that lights up pathways of growth, personal development, wisdom, exciting avenues to expand on knowledge, to grow your wisdom, to take a chance to know somebody else more intimately and their perspective on life, their lens, right? The sun is such a bright star. Obviously, we see the sun every day and we're like, whoa, it's daytime. It announces itself. And your ninth house is about teachers, guides, people who are introducing you to other ways of seeing the world. This is your house of globalism, international platforms, publishing, higher education, philosophy, theology. This is the house of the horoscope. And by the sun lighting up that house, you might be coming into contact with a figure who is teaching, guiding, educating, opening a door to another world or a place or a culture or a cultural difference. However, at full moon, the full moon in Aquarius is lighting up your house of sibling characters, close kindred spirits, communication skills, skill sets, and your sense of interpersonal rapport and the dynamic of engaging with your environment, the people and the places in your neighborhood, in your local area, at your local hangout, etc. So for Sagittarius, there could be this really interesting dynamic going on of like, what do I know? What do I know to be true? What do I think? How am I contextualizing this? Like, I think I see life this way, but this person's challenging me to think that way. How do I connect? How do I communicate? And so on. Okay. You've also got Uranus in your house of partners, changing up how you experience intimate relationships over the next 8 years. So you could go from single to married. You could go from married to single. You could go from liking women to liking men or back again, or you could meet someone who's completely not your usual type, someone who's unusual, unorthodox. You could also meet characters who are outside of the realms of society. I myself am a moon Uranus person, so maybe that's why I'm an astrologer. Unconventional, different, somebody who maybe is on the fringes, unusual. Not that I think of myself as a weirdo. Maybe I am. Mars has entered your house of friends, community networks, and social spheres. Mars is the ruler of your passions, your children, your approach to sex, fertility, and love, gambling, excitement, joy, children. All of these things are fifth house matters. But with the ruler of your fifth house now in your 11th house, you could be turning to your community to amplify and build on your experience of children, right? So I know a lot of Sagittarius risings who are parents, and this fifth house of children is being activated. So it could turn out that actually having kids is really hard work, Saturn, but also opening their hearts, Neptune, in miraculous, magical ways. But this could just be a point where, it takes a village to raise a child. This could be a point where there's a bit of tension between the village and the child, a bit of, maybe even like your child wanders into somebody's house and like does something, annoying. So anyway, relationships and children and your heart are all conspiring together. However, this isn't necessarily an easy energy. We've got that rabble rouser Uranus, the change maker, and Saturn, which is, the ram caught in the fence energy. At the same time, Venus and Jupiter are together in your 8th house of loyalty and trust. So, entrusting another person to hold space for you, entrusting another person to show up with sweetness, entrusting or investing or reciprocity, a process of interdependency, deep collaboration could be written in the stars. And you've also got the North Node of fate and destiny now in your zone of home, which is the 4th house of roots, ancestry, lineage, security, stability, property, and the roots and base of your horoscope right down here. So that is corroborating just after full moon. It could be there just could be a bit of relief, right, around home and where you put your head, where you rest your head on the pillow, because that's your 4th house. Okay, so Capricorn rising, again, trying to keep this fairly swift because I am running out of time. I've got to leave the damn house. Talking of houses, Capricorn, your ruling planet is Saturn. Saturn is now in your 4th house of home with Neptune. And the ruler of your 4th house is in Libra at the top of your house. So this axis that's being activated is where you're from, where you're going to, where you're headed. And Mars is very direct energy. So it's all about you being aware of moving forward with thrusting yourself ambitiously into prominence, but there perhaps being a family tie or some kind of notion of home that's connected to your ambitious strivings. The full moon is lighting up your house of wealth and personal resources and how you make money, what you do to make a living. Uranus is in your house of service, rituals, routines, daily workplace settings. So something may be changing about your health. Something may be changing about the way you seek to be well. Something may be rattling, changing, shaking up around your sense of ritual and keeping on top of things, including your job that makes you money. However, Leo season is all about interdependency, coming together to collaborate with something to give and to get. So you could be thinking very much about who you trust with your health condition, how you progress and invest in your well-being. And then there being this real underscoring emphasis with Pluto and the moon in your house of self-sufficiency, of solo wealth, solo assets. It's interesting. I mean, the way I write horoscopes and the way I delineate these transits is always through lived experience. I'm constantly watching people, what they're going through, anticipating, and basically, needless to say, these themes are on point. So for the Capricorn rising, looking at the money that you have possession over, or what you have to give, and being aware of what it is that you have to give and your potential. This is a nice time to bring people's focus to you and what you can give, while still being aware of the potential for collaboration and togetherness and interdependence. Venus and Jupiter are in your seventh house of love relationships, and Venus is the ruler of your fifth house of romance, sexuality, children, pleasure, offspring, pregnancy, and joy. So the Capricorn risings might be getting a really lovely interaction with expansion on their relationships. So revealing more about relationships and going deep. Don't be afraid to go deep and be vulnerable. Aquarius risings. Here we are nearing the end of this little session. Relationships are in the spotlight during Leo season always, because the sun is so at home in your relationship sector and is the ruler of your relationships. So we've got Leo season, but wait, Mercury retrograde is messing things up. There could be a back and forth in your relationship dynamic. However, there's a lot of excitement going on. You've got Uranus in your fifth house of love, sex, fertility, children, an unexpected pregnancy, an unexpected lover, a shock disruption to your own sense of joy and pleasure, and how you experience hobbies, the arts, creative collaborations. All of these could be relevant. There is an interesting dynamic, just as with the Leo risings and with some of the other people that I've mentioned, in terms of your contextualization of ideas and published matter. So Saturn and Neptune in your third house, it's your thinking, and Neptune is confusing and Saturn is hard work. So if you've signed up to a little course, if you're doing writing, journaling, if you are putting your ideas down on paper, a hypnotist could help, Neptune. A disciplined practice could help, Saturn. But with Mars now in Libra, in the house of wisdom, growth, there could be a leap of faith that you're taking to learn things in a different way, perhaps even, researching something outside of the box. The full moon is all about you, your identity, and perhaps your physical body, your health, your look, your presence. The moon is the ruler of your sixth house of health and well-being. And there's a sweet spot there as Jupiter and Venus get nice and cozy in your sixth house of wellness. And the moon responds to that, of course, or they respond to the moon. And that's in your house of self and identity. Post the selfie, make a big fuss of you. Yes, you've got a partner who stands out, but this is about you now, Aquarius. And last but not least, we got Pisces and Pisces rising. Pisces rising. Please take it easy. The moon is coming to fruition in your 12th house of retreat, closure, sacrifices, and surrendering. It may be necessary to just pump the brakes and to just simply surrender. It's been a month of, the last 2.5 weeks or so may have been all about your health, your routines, being on it, being, creatively engaged at work, in your domestic routines, in your rituals, taking care of yourself. There's a change going on at home in your property, and there is a lot of hard work around your finances and your sense of personal income. You may have handed the reins to a partner or sought out a way to collaborate when it comes to your finances, because the ruler of your second house, Mars, is now in your 8th house. So trusting others with the way that you get a sense of self-worth. Your sense of self-worth and your values could be a little bit confused. Things could be seeming really hard for the Pisces risings. However, your own sense of joy, your children, your fertility, your sex life, your sense of joy is amplified with Jupiter, the planet of knowledge and learning in your fifth house with Venus, the ruler of your third house of close connections. So there may be something really fun to do in your neighborhood. There may be a close connection that is really joyful. And the ruler of your fifth house, the moon, is in the 12th house. So surrendering a love relationship, allowing yourself to zoom out and just breathe. Breathing could be really important for us all. Okay, let's just take a look at when this new moon set the tone for this full moon that we're having. This was 10th of February 2024. This is always Chinese New Year in the Asian world, in the world that is Asian, where I am. I love Chinese New Year. It is the funnest of the fun. I think it is just one of my favorites. I would even might like it more than Christmas. I really do. And I like Mid-Autumn Festival as well a lot. It's the full moon around. It's either the Pisces full moon or the Aries full moon, depending on the calendar. It's just great. I love the Asian holidays. And what we have here is the sun and the moon back in 2024, February, resetting at 20 degrees with Mercury in Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius. And now the moon is in at 18 degrees 40 minutes, so 2 degrees off, but pretty bang on. Oh, sorry, 17. What degree? I think it's 16. Oh, fuck it. Excuse me. Anyway, 2024, the new moon had an Aquarius. It was an Aquarius full new moon. And it featured Mercury. Now we've got Mercury in Leo. It featured Pluto. Now Pluto's in now Pluto is still in Aquarius. Anyway, I am flagging. Hopefully you set your intentions back there. Maybe there's something coming to fruition now that was seeded then. Always worth looking back in your photo album, your calendar to see what you were focusing on in that February of 2024. I'll just look back at Chinese New Year and what I was doing, who I was with, the community. Anyhow, it's dark in Tokyo now, so I'm going to wrap this up and wish you all a very merry Aquarius full moon. And yeah, stay with me. I'm going to be teaching astrology in such a cheap, cheerful, brilliantly fun, wonderful researched little baby course. So that's going to be with you real soon. For now, I'm going off to spend some time with my community. I am late like the white rabbit, but never mind. Sending you all my love, and I'm available for personal readings always. Big hugs.